Good morning and God bless. Oh, game chair. The little nuances of being prepared by 4 a.m. This is turning into Raw at 4:02. Let's get busy. Let's work. If you're afraid, yeah, this is for you. Warning, you're entering a live conscious war zone. This session may corrupt your avoidance-based identity. You may experience full exposure to spiritual stall tactics, sudden grief over what fear stole from your authorship, and intense clarity about who you've never become because you've never moved toward it. Don't panic. Don't shake in your boots. Flip it. Override it. Run into the fire. Welcome to Raw for Epoch 2, day 106. The fear flip. Run into what's running from you. Now, let me start by telling you something you already know, but can't quite bring yourself to admit. Fear isn't blocking your life. Fear is your life until you override it. Let's get right into our concept overview. The fear flip. Today, we're not conquering fear, we're commanding it. This is not therapy, this is science. We are flipping fear back into its original design. A signal that your authorship is overdue. Here is what we will expose. Fear is not the opposite of love. It is its twin in survival mode. Yeah. Avoidance scripts your nervous system faster than courage. Every unchallenged fear becomes a new perimeter for your identity. Fear doesn't stop you, it comforts you with false peace. And until you move toward fear, love can't be fully experienced. That is our concept overview. That is what we will touch on as we break through this fear. Here's a visual metaphor. We call this the dog that stops barking. Imagine this. You're walking through a neighborhood. A dog behind a gate goes wild every time you walk past. It's growling, it's barking, it's jumping. And you're all shook, so you flinch. You cross the street, you change your route. Till one day, you don't. You walk straight towards the gate, perk up, man up, or woman up. And the barking stops. Because that dog didn't want to attack. It wanted to test if you still feared it. And yeah, fear works the same way. It's loud until you walk forward. And then it submits. Are you scared of that dog? Can you hear it barking? Here's my personal perspective. Fear taught me how to create, but backwards. I didn't grow up scared of everything, but I was always scared of staying the same. I felt that from birth. The hood, where I came from, it didn't make me fear the street. It made me fear settling. And that's when I learned, fear teaches you how to create backwards. Because if you can't move from authorship, you'll still create from trauma. So here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud and put on a t-shirt. Fear is one of the highest performing emotional motivators on the planet. Why? It is consistent. It is dominant, and it is primal. Oh, and by the way, it does not need your permission. Now, what I didn't realize early on was that fear and love share the same frequency. They're not opposites, they are poles. That is why we get into the law of polarity. Fear is just love in survival mode. You fear losing your job because you love your family. You feel failure because you love your future. You see that? You fear stepping up because you love your comfort and you haven't decided whether to betray it. Now, I used to think fear was a stop sign. But what I realized was it's a GPS signal saying, if you go through this, on the other side, love is waiting. Fear isn't the problem. It's the emotion that signals the domain you haven't authored yet. That's all it is. That's why it shows up the loudest where you haven't taken control and haven't taken command. Think of it like this. I feared staying broke, so I chased wealth. But it wasn't about the money, it's about the love for freedom. I feared staying invisible, so I chased impact because I love to be heard. On a chessboard, I feared being a pawn, so I fought for system authorship because I love divine control. So what's the plot twist? Fear doesn't just stop you, it comforts you. It convinces you that avoidance is wisdom. And that's how I learned this one thing I'll never forget. You don't just run from fear. You negotiate with it. You negotiate with it. And you call the deal peace. So I assess fear for what it really is. Whenever I feel it, I understand it's the entry point to authorship. It's the prelude to power. It's the moment right before I script a new love-based reality through spiritual override, mental visualization, physical, almost ate the mic there, physical obedience, emotional activation. So you want to know what fear is? Fear is heaven in disguise. Because if you move through it, you don't just reach your future, you return to your roots. We're going to get into our black book. Let's check the chat. I said it. I think it's worth repeating. I don't want to get too tangential because the black book got some stuff. Fear. If you really process and analyze fear, it is almost quite certainly because of the unknown that is attached to it, or the social pressure of falling flat on your face. And as I said, it is literally the same vibrational frequency as love. And when you start to mix or play with those polarities, and you think about, I really want to be rich, it's because you fear being broke. So fear, the reality of the fear and the love is that broke and rich are the same vibrational frequency. It's abundance. Let's call it money, finance. You're broke financially. You're rich financially. You think it's opposite. It's the same polar identity. You just are which one you're on is predicated off of who you are being. When you behave broke, it's because you fear being broke and you love the idea of being rich. How you get there, of course, is dependent on how you live your life and how you activate towards that frequency. It is how heaven and hell is created. It is God and the devil, the fully epitomized hierarchical version of it. If you think about, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I'm getting goosebumps and chills just considering it. The idea of fear for me, the biggest fear is spiritual, is the devil. And if you read anything about it, you really give yourself the opportunity to consider it. They say that, I think Lucifer, and I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but it's bearer of light. It was as if he fell from heaven and boom, and light exploded. So imagine that. Imagine that the devil is actually light. And it's why I say sometimes the biggest mask we wear is in the light, in front of all of our social experiences. We put on the greatest, most fear-driven mask we can put on because we're worried about what it looks like. So we smile because we believe we should smile. We work when we work because we believe we got to maintain. We don't say no when we need to say no because what it looks like. And all these things occur usually in the light. And the greatest derivative, again, of that is that possibility and the fear of evil. And the poverty-driven, fear-based consciousness. 4:14 on a Wednesday, we're breaking through fear. So think about where you're at. When you yearn for something and you dream about something, it is because you fear staying exactly where you are and not having it. Why? Because you love the concept and idea of reaching whatever it is that pinnacle is for you. And the difference between reaching the end, of course, is scary when you start. It's scary when you're in the middle. And it's scary when you look ahead and you still don't have what you want to have. And it's scary to think you might not get it. That's the biggest thing. What if you don't get it how you see it? That hurts. It's scary. We all have fear. That's another thing too, is in our narcissistic pursuit of strength and putting on a mask of fortitude and power, and that sort of look at me and don't get in my way sort of approach to life. We're all scared somehow. And the more we admit it, the more we submit to it, the greater the love becomes. Because how would you identify love otherwise? You got to understand and appreciate the depth of fear. Let's get into the Black Book. Banca Bodega style on Raw at 4. Ooh. Fear is not emotional, it is architectural. So this ain't fear management. This is a full doctrine breakdown on fear as system programming, starting with the first entry in our Black Book today. Fear and love are not opposite. They are polarities. I said it right. They're on the same frequency, just different sides of the house. Fear and love ride the same emotional current, just in reverse. Fear says, protect what you love. Love says, pursue what you love. They are both creative forces, but fear creates by restriction. You start to hold it and feel like you got to put walls around it. Love creates through expansion. You let go, you submit. That's obedience. If you avoid fear, you're denying the current that delivers love. If you avoid fear, you're denying the current that delivers love. You can't reach love unless you go through the fear. It's not avoidance or denial. It is accepting. It is embracing. It is understanding, acknowledging, and realizing. How else? When you're submitting, just submit. When they talk about letting go, presence, moment, all that stuff, it is releasing. It is full authority of, I'm moving towards love, but I'm also releasing all I can't control. And I embrace it. How? Because I walk and control the love I have for myself. So when I approach the uncontrollable in a controlled way, when I approach fear with love, I'm good. When fear hits you, boom, you should say, oh, that's something telling me what? Love is on the other side. Fear is the absolute quantifier and qualifier of love. If you just but pursue. The second entry in our Black Book. Avoidance is an identity algorithm. When you avoid something, your system stores it as truth. You should have learned this yesterday. Your nervous system doesn't say, we just weren't ready. It says, This is dangerous. Lock it down. And that is dangerous because now your subconscious triggers resistance, not because you're scared, but because you've trained it to activate fear at the first sign of expansion. So if you're 95% conscious, subconscious, and it reacts to the 5% of consciousness, if you come to consciousness in fear and you avoid, your subconscious says, uh-oh, whenever we have fear, we're supposed to resist. We're supposed to lock down and shut down. So now that becomes your activated reflex. If you stop, pause, and reflect, when fear comes, you don't even probably think about, what do I do? You just pause, you stop, you curl up, you block. No, release. Just let go. Here's the third entry in our black book. This is logic. This is science. Fact check me. Fear defines your identity perimeter. Every fear you don't confront becomes a barrier around who you are allowed to be. If you fear rejection, you never lead. If you fear failure, you never start. If you fear judgment, you dilute every word before it hits your tongue. Fear isn't stopping you, it is shaping you. Let go of ego and pride. Be objectively subjective and subjectively objective. I love to play with those words like that. I had this conversation. I talked about it recently. How hard it is for us to say no. You want to do something or you don't want to do something. You want to appease somebody. You're worried about what it looks like. So before the thought and the realness of what you want to say hits your tongue, you're filtering it like, oh, I don't want to say no because I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. So I'll hurt my own feelings. Or I don't want to do this because, oh, I want to do this, but oh my God, I can see how this person is reacting to me. They're starting to judge me and condemn me and telling me I look crazy. Let me not do it. So you dilute yourself and you regress into what? Fear-based consciousness. It is very obvious if you are still worrying about starting, and the worry, derivative of fear. Break down fear. You worry, you overthink, you're concerned. That is how these excuses start to feel very logical because your subconscious takes it as what? Truth. You built truth based off fear. And you've proven to yourself over and over because your subconscious is only going to reveal to you what you believe is truth. It's going to mirror it for you. So every time I do this, this happens to me and it's not meant to be. Yep. Because every time you do it, you hit a wall of fear. You tuck in, you curl up into the fetal, you build the barrier, and you never extend out your perimeter. You lose the war because you're constantly losing the little battles. And sometimes you got to lose a battle to win the war. But you stop. That's perimeter-based, fear-driven tolerance towards, this is my box. Let me stay in my box and let me build a box inside my box. Yo, it's real. Here's the fourth entry. We're opening up. We're in the banca. We got the black book. Bodega style, paper protocols. You're probably wondering, what is Jeff saying right now? That's me not being fearful of what I've created. Fear is comforting when left unchallenged. Excuse me. Avoidance creates a fake peace. You convince yourself you made a wise decision, but really, you just delayed the confrontation and rebranded the paralysis. Fear doesn't just scare you, it soothes you. That is why it's so addictive. You can be high on fear. Fear is seductive because it will allow you to drift right back into comfort. And it will allow you to draw up a conclusion. Imagine, I talk about this a lot. At least in my head, I do. I think I've said it a few times here. How are you so convinced? What are you so convinced of? That's also a derivative of fear. You think you know already. I know what's going to happen, or I know what I know. The only thing that knowing assures you of is everything you don't know. So as soon as you know something, it should teach you, whoa, there's a lot I don't know. But you'll never figure it out because you're soothed by what you think you know. You're convinced by what you think you're already convinced of. And so in that way, you don't seek more. That's, again, your perimeter. The power of wisdom is that you can confirm, I know what I now know, which also teaches me what I don't know. And that what? Because I've just learned this, there's so much more to know. So fear in that way, the devil, it's not horns and fire and burning. It's confirmation. You can stay right here. That's the devil at massive, massive, high-performing work. And then fear doesn't have to, once fear locks you in, it stops worrying about you. It just keeps pounding you with the same information over and over and over. And you're just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm gonna get past this point, and I'm gonna get past this point. It's not crazy. It's the realness of what you created. I'm getting hyped here. I'm getting so hyped, I'm stumbling on myself. Where we at 424? Where you at, Chuck? You scared? You scared by a dog? My uncle used to tell me that. Yo, you scared by a dog. Here's the fifth entry in the Black Book. Until you move through fear, love stays theoretical. Ooh. You can't reach joy, impact, freedom, or healing. You got to heal. Until you override the wall that fear built around it. Because fear is love's entry test. And the system doesn't log intentions. It only logs movement. It's also why we talk mind, body, and spirit. We're going to get into the consequences of fear. And there's massive consequences to fear. If your mind, body, and spirit do not trust one another, you can think and log an intention all you want. I'm going to, here we are. April's already just about gone. The summer's going to come and go. This year is just about over. Yep. So you have all these intentions. You have all these thoughts, but you're not spirited, and you're definitely not moving your physical body towards where you said you would want to go. So you're unintentional about your intentions. You're not moving. The system logs. Yeah, I heard you. This is just one of those moments. It'll pass with no movement. So your system doesn't care what you intended to do. It only knows what you actually did. There's consequences. Here are your consequences of inaction. If you don't flip your fear, you'll stay in reverse creation mode, building barriers and calling them boundaries. You'll call emotional paralysis alignment. You'll fear expansion and mask it as discernment. You'll teach your system that authorship is dangerous. You'll stay loyal to survival while wondering why love never fully lands. And there is a worst of all. The worst of all is this. You'll create your hell while calling it, playing it safe. But I got you, because this is how to take ownership. Those consequences should hurt. It hurts me. It hurts me to think it and say it. That's why I'm here. It starts with me. It hurts me to think and say that I lived like that without even realizing it for a long time, and nobody was ever loving enough to tell me, yo, Jeff, right? That is, when they talk about self-actualization, I used to think about self-actualization as this self-realization, this self-domination that, you become this. No, self-actualization is the realization that it's bigger than you. And so this is why I also keep my circle tight, because I had a circle for years that was around me that never say, yo, Jeff, yo, wake up. They rather keep me asleep with them. No disrespect, not casting aspersions, Most people don't realize they themselves are asleep. Because fear attracts fear. You think fear attracts love? Just because fear is a realization that there's something you love on the other side, when you stay wrapped in fear, you attract fear. When you live in poverty, you attract poverty. Yo, I think about the projects all the time, right? And again, it's a chorus of who I am. I love it. I go back. It's like home. I say it all the time. But I lived in the letter H on the 8th floor of a 14-story building, project building. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. That's 8 apartments. 8 apartments. What's 14 times 8? 8 times 4 is 32. 8, 112. There's 112 apartments in one project building. And I lived in the 14th story. There's some that were 20. So if there was 112 apartments, and let's say on average there's 3 people there, more like 4, sometimes 5. There's big families in those little apartments. Let's say 3, and let's knock it down to 100. 300 people per building. Do you know how many buildings were in the projects that I lived, just the ones that I lived in? Probably 30. Which simple math tells you, times 3, there's just about 1,000 people. How does that happen? How do they build 14, 20-story buildings with 8 apartments per floor? How are there that many people in poverty? You're going to give me a lot of answers that are quite logical and fear-driven. Fear attracts fear. You got to remove the emotion. You got to remove the emotion and just start to ask yourself and look around. And then how do people go there, live there, know they don't want to be there? First of all, how do you destroy where you live? That's a conversation for another day. But if you to a man, if you asked everybody there, is this where you really would want to be? I guarantee you 100%, nothing's 100%, but this to me is 100%. Nobody wants to stay there. But yet you keep repeating the same cycle over and over and over and over. And you create more and more families over and over and over and over. You don't break it. And the most you do is move from one project complex to another, one poverty-driven mindset environment to another. Yo, my grandmother lived, I lived at one point, my mother and I lived, but we moved out, which God bless, it was a move. My grandparents lived on the 8th floor, we lived on the 6th floor. So we moved out of my grandmother's apartment, my mother and I. It was just us, latchkey child. God bless my mother, she did everything she could, right? In the 80s by herself. Sometimes little steps, little tiny steps. But we moved from the 8th floor to the 6th floor. So here we are, this family occupying 2 different floors, 2 different apartments. My mom made a stretch. She tried. She wound up getting out. We wound up getting out. I'm out. Thank God. Not because it's terrible, because I didn't want to be there. I made a decision. Point being, that is how these things spread. We keep playing it safe. We keep playing it safe, and we wonder why we stay where we're at. Nothing changes if nothing changes. I said it yesterday. I can say it every day. That always scared me. Let's talk about how to take ownership. The first thing you want to do is name the fear you've been negotiating with. Ask yourself, where have you made a deal with avoidance? What move have you been thinking about for too long? Some of us have been thinking about the same move for an awfully long time. The second thing you want to do is make contact with the wall. Fear is the gate. Touch it, speak the thing, move towards the conversation, launch the step. The barrier that fear creates is not concrete. It usually has a door. It almost always, certainly, definitely, maybe has a door. And guess who has the key? And a lot of times it's not even locked. You just got to open it. Open the door. Walk to the gate. Open it. Walk outside. Stretch your boundaries. Do something slightly different. Increase your stamina. You have a tolerance for fear. The only way to break it is to extend it. Third thing you want to do is, we're talking about how to, because you don't want to be in any of those consequences. You don't want the consequence of fear. Act before the fear speaks. Don't wait for the signal to go. Dare I say, be the signal. Flip fear by moving first. The override doesn't come with calm, it comes with conviction. What did I say yesterday about when I wake up, I can't really just think about it? So fear is going to come anyway, but if you move before the fear actually paralyzes you, if you're like, look, we just go, boom, 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 you start just, that's why you start small, and that's why you start with things you can control. Because it's going to be a derivative of fear. It's not all scary like the monster under the bed. Close the closet door. Don't look in the mirror and say Bloody Mary. Did you do that as a kid? Oh, God. That, oof. I don't even want to think about it. The derivatives of fear, it doesn't come again with the horns and the burning. It's like, yo, you're good. Yo, just stay here. It's okay where it's at. It's not that bad. It could be worse. That's how it gets you. That's how it gets you. That's how it shuts you down. And you start making all these excuses. And your excuses sound convincing. They sound real. Because they are. Because you told yourself that. So when you start to change your rhythms and habits and patterns, and you do things that are derivatives of fear, it hurts, it's painful, I wake up. I give myself presence. I sit in calmness and stillness with the fear. That's you training yourself through derivatives of fear. Then when you go try something, you go stand up in a meeting and you raise your hand and speak out of turn because, you say, fuck it. I got to see at the table. I'm going to speak today. I'm going to go approach my boss about that raise. I'm going to go confront my partner about some things that have been conflicted and stopping us from growing. I'm going to push myself towards that dream. You do all these little things that stack. That makes your subconscious confident. Oh, okay, we tried this. We were successful. All right. It's April, so it's time for our phone tap. You can do this today. Banca certified, ARR format, audit, remix, re-record. We start with the audit. Audit the one fear you've renamed as wisdom. For example, you've been waiting for the right moment, but OBS Studio disconnected? You better not have. Okay, for example, when the anxiety rises, speak. When the doubt surfaces, press send. When the breath shortens, step into it. That is the flip. Then you re-record. Re-record your authorship by logging a new override. For example, today, move once today toward the fear. Name it, touch it, override it, because if you don't, your system will record avoidance as truth again. Listen, please. I'll make this as clear as I can. You don't need to overcome fear. You need to flip it. You don't have to wait for clarity. You just have to walk toward the gate. Fear is love's audition. The system doesn't care about your heart. It cares about your movement. So own the system will be raised by emotional noise and die believing it was a warning. You either run the system runs you. If you're scared by a dog, change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.